Hey team, it's me, or rather it is not me, it is my digital twin. We are here to go over a practice question for IB Economics Paper 1. The government of Kyrgyzstan introduces an expansionary fiscal policy that includes a stimulus package aimed at increasing aggregate demand during a period of economic recession. The package includes increased government spending on infrastructure projects and tax cuts for households. A. With the help of an aggregate demand and aggregate supply, ADAS diagram, explain the short-run effects of the fiscal stimulus on output and the price level in the economy. 10 marks. B. Evaluate the effectiveness of this fiscal stimulus package in combating a recession, considering both its potential benefits and limitations. 15 marks. A. 10 marks. An expansionary fiscal policy refers to an increase in government spending or a decrease in taxes aimed at boosting aggregate demand, AD. In this case, in Kyrgyzstan, the stimulus includes infrastructure spending, which directly increases AD through government expenditure, and tax cuts, which increase disposable income and thus consumption, further increasing AD. The ADAS diagram should be drawn with real GDP Y on the horizontal axis and the price level, PL, on the vertical axis. The aggregate demand, AD curve, slopes downward, and the aggregate supply, AS curve, is upward sloping in the short run, SRAS. Label initial equilibrium at E1 with an initial price level, PL1, and real GDP, Y1. The fiscal stimulus increases AD, shifting the AD curve to the right from AD1 to AD2. This shift in AD leads to a new equilibrium at E2 with a higher output, Y2, and a higher price level, PL2. The fiscal stimulus will lead to increased output, Y2, Y1, moving the economy closer to its potential output. As demand increases, price levels, PL2, PL1, will rise due to upward pressure on prices as firms try to meet increased demand. This assumes the economy is operating below its potential output, which is typical during a recession, so the economy has spare capacity. B. Evaluation of the effectiveness of the fiscal stimulus, 15 marks. A fiscal stimulus directly increases AD, which helps combat a recession by stimulating economic activity. By raising government spending and reducing taxes, both consumption and investment should rise. In the short run, this can help reduce unemployment as firms increase output to meet higher demand, especially in sectors directly benefiting from the infrastructure projects. The multiplier effect, HL, can increase the initial impact of government spending. For example, infrastructure projects create jobs, and workers' incomes are spent in the economy, leading to further increases in AD. In the case of tax cuts, individuals are likely to increase consumption as their disposable income rises, which further stimulates economic activity. By stimulating output, the fiscal stimulus can reduce cyclical unemployment. Increased demand for goods and services will lead firms to hire more workers to meet the demand. The fiscal stimulus may lead to higher government borrowing. If the government increases spending without raising taxes, it could lead to a budget deficit and an increase in public debt. In the long run, this could limit the government's ability to respond to future economic downturns or require higher taxes to service the debt. In the short run, the increased demand, shift of AD to the right, can lead to higher inflation, especially if the economy is already close to full capacity. This can reduce the real purchasing power of consumers and increase costs for businesses, leading to stagflation, higher inflation, and unemployment. If the government increases spending by borrowing from the private sector, there is a possibility of crowding out. This occurs when government borrowing raises interest rates, making it more expensive for businesses and households to borrow, thus reducing private sector investment. There are often significant time lags in the effectiveness of fiscal policy. It may take time for the government to implement the stimulus, and the full effects of the policy may not be felt until months or even years later. In the case of tax cuts, consumers may not immediately respond to the increased disposable income, delaying the impact on aggregate demand. If the economy is facing supply-side constraints, such as limited labor or capital, a fiscal stimulus may not be as effective in increasing output. In this case, the primary effect may be an increase in the price level rather than a significant rise in real GDP. The effectiveness of the fiscal stimulus depends on the economic context. If the economy has significant unused capacity, such as during a deep recession, the stimulus can be effective in increasing output and reducing unemployment. However, the long-term effectiveness may be limited by the risk of higher debt and inflation, as well as the possibility of crowding out private investment. While fiscal stimulus can help mitigate the impacts of a recession in the short run, its long-term sustainability is questionable, especially if there are no structural reforms or fiscal responsibility once the economy stabilizes. The trade-off between stimulating demand and maintaining fiscal balance is crucial. Thanks, team. Keep practicing. Remember to like and subscribe. Hei Cornera.